were speaking about the notion of civil society and what sustains um, an organized civil society, or what works against that. I want to start by saying that I think civil society organizations, it's not just the question of funding, which we often, and correctly so, connect to the discussion of sustainability. But I also think it has to do with an organization retaining its relevance and being willing to reshape itself, reinvent itself if necessary, to be able to take forward its values. Because I think at the heart of relevance is knowing what your value in the world is and making sure that that gets packaged in a way which talks to the issues of the day. It's not the same, in my view, as taking on projects because those are the ones that are funded. Because I think that's a dead-end avenue for organizations. We so often do it when we're cash-strapped, but we find ourselves taken more and more away from our original purpose. And so if we no longer have a purpose in this world, then maybe we need to shut our doors and say that, do that gracefully rather than go out with the whimper. I think the other, and what's challenging for me as an organization that receives a large amount of my financial support from international NGOs, particularly those based in the north, is how we develop that relationship. We often call partners, and it's at a time when you're told that you are no longer part of the partnership, because sometimes it's the international NGO that has either changed their vision, or not their vision necessarily, but their strategy, their areas of interest, or they are struggling with finance in the same way that you are, or they're going through some structural change. And I suppose what's interesting to me is how interested that organization is in all our structural change, our shifts. But we don't necessarily get involved in the thinking and helping them to shape their changes and their movements. And if one is a partner, then one is, in my view, also connected even to the partner that provides the funds. We need to be taking an interest in the welfare of that organization, just as they take interest in our welfare. And so that it's not a one-way street when it comes to the time to part. It should be a mutual agreement to move. Often we don't have that mutual agreement. We are basically told this will be the end of a partnership. And I think that needs to be looked at, because I don't think of ourselves simply as civil society receiving in this end of the world. I think we are contributing greatly to the knowledge, to the insight, to an understanding about human rights in a different setting, but we are going on that pathway together. I think that needs to be explored a lot more. I also think we need to think about organizations very frequently, and I'm totally in agreement that we need to have very good governance structures and practices. But sometimes we err on the side of rules and less on the side of innovation, less on the side of new thinking or experimentation, which if we don't do that, if we don't research new possibilities, we close down options for civil society. And sometimes what you need is somebody who's willing to go out on a limb with you and just see that something could work, scope a new idea, rather than just back the ones that will work. At the same time, I am very conscious that one does not want to just walk away from organizations which are strong in structure, strong in relevance, strong in purpose, because the bigger organizations also provide a kind of protective umbrella. If you take the notion of a tree provides shade for other plants to grow underneath its boughs. And I think we need to think a lot about these things before we walk away from our partnerships. And I'm not just saying this because this particular relationship has come to an end, but I think it needs to be thought through in every relationship that we have. And that goes for myself and my organization when we work with other smaller CSOs or CBOs. It's not just a matter of ducking in when it suits my agenda. It's got to be clearly thought through as a positive for all our agendas, and more importantly, the agendas of the international civil society movement, because I think that's what we should be focusing on, is how do we build this international space where citizens speak and citizens participate, and we don't allow a few very powerful individuals to decide what's right.